Imagine sitting down to write two highly technical, meticulously detailed notes about your daily problem solving.
Okay.
Now imagine doing that every single day. Weekends, holidays, leap years, it just doesn't matter.
Oh, wow. 2 posts a day.
2 posts a day, every day for 15 years.
I mean, for most of us, that sounds like an impossible grind.
Right. It sounds like a surefire path to total burnout. But today, we're diving into the mind of someone who has done exactly that.
And we should clarify, we aren't analyzing a massive corporate white paper or, a breaking news story today.
No, not at all. We are looking at a single, seemingly obscure blog post from March 12, 2026. The site is kianeng.org, which is the digital journal of an individual who simply goes by Ang.
Yeah, and they describe themselves as an old software plumber.
I love that phrase.
Me too. So our mission for this deep dive is twofold. First, we're going to extract a very clever, bite-sized programming insight regarding data handling. And second, we're going to zoom way out, right, to explore the fascinating, really relentless engine of a lifelong learner who has documented their tinkering since July 2011.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because even the most niche, hyper-specific technical notes can hold universal, profound lessons about how you and I process the world around us.
They really can. Because the best way to understand complex systems, whether you are looking at enterprise-level software or, honestly, the mechanics of human cognition, is to start by examining the micro-level decisions people make when they hit a wall.
Yeah, those tiny friction points.
Right. You have to look at the tiny atomic units of friction. What does a person do when the code doesn't compile? How do they log that failure?
Which brings us directly to the friction point our old software plumber is solving in today's source material. The entry we are looking at is titled Notes on Haskell Programming, Part 80.
Part 80. That's wild.
Part 80. That alone implies there are at least 79 prior entries dedicated purely to wrestling with Haskell.
And for the listener, Haskell is a notoriously rigorous, mathematically grounded functional programming language.
Yeah.
It is not easy to just pick up and play with.
No, it's not. So what is Ang actually doing in Part 80?
Well, in this particular post, Ang is refactoring a side project. They are working with something called an either type, specifically dealing with a case statement that returns this either type.
Okay, in either type.
Yeah, and during this refactoring process, Ang discovers a massive simplification using a built-in function called isRight.
For those of you listening who write code, you know that Haskell doesn't let you play fast and loose with errors.
No, it definitely doesn't.
You don't just throw an exception into the void and pray a catch block intercepts it 5 layers up the stack.
Right. Functional languages force you to handle the possibility of failure explicitly. And they often do that using a sum type.
Which is where the either type comes in.
Exactly. The either type is the classic example here. A function returning an either guarantees the result will be one of 2 distinct possibilities.
Just 2.
Yep. Usually a success state carrying your desired data, or a failure state carrying an error message.
And before Ang stumbled onto this isRight function, they were writing out a full case match.
Which is pretty standard, but verbose.
Very verbose. In Haskell, if you are doing pattern matching on a sum type, but you don't actually care about the specific data payload inside the container.
Like if you just want to know if it worked or not.
Exactly. Say you literally just want a Boolean true or false answer confirming if the operation succeeded. To do that, you have to use an underscore.
Ah, the underscore.
Yeah, the underscore acts as a wildcard to explicitly tell the compiler, I know there is data here, but I am discarding it.
But that creates unnecessary boilerplate, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
You are writing lines of code solely to satisfy the compiler's demand that you acknowledge the data.
Just so you can immediately throw that data away.
Right. And what makes isRight so elegant in this context is that it strips all that friction away.
It evaluates the container at a higher level, right, and just hands you a clean Boolean.
Exactly. It bypasses the need for manual pattern matching and discarding variables entirely. I want to translate this for a second because the mechanism here is crucial.
Now go for it.
Think of a functional sum type like a massive railyard track switch.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The code must physically route your data train down one of 2 tracks. Track A for success or track B for failure.
Makes sense.
In standard Haskell pattern matching, you essentially have to write code that stops the train, explicitly unloads the cargo on both tracks, inspects the empty train cars, and only then figures out which track it took.
Even if you just plan to throw the cargo away using that underscore wildcard, that's exhausting.
Exactly. But the isRight function is entirely different. It acts as a simple track sensor.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't stop the train or check the cargo. It just pings a true or false Boolean based on which track the train is currently sitting on.
What's fascinating here is how this functional mechanism ties into the deeper question Ang asks in the blog post.
Because it's not just about the code.
Right. After implementing this optimization, Ang pauses to wonder, why does the Haskell community use the terms left and right for error handling in the first place?
Because it has absolutely nothing to do with physical direction.
Not at all. And it's brilliant. Ang notes the community mnemonic. In this sum type, the right value is the correct value.
It's the right answer.
Yes, the right answer. And the left value represents an error state because the data has left the desired path.
I love that. You are taking a rigid, formal logic structure, a sum type enforced by a strict compiler,
and applying a playful, highly memorable linguistic trick to humanize it.
Yeah. It takes the abstraction of abstract algebra and grounds it in a simple pun.
You don't have to memorize complex error state codes. You just remember the linguistic shortcut. If it's right, the operation succeeded. If it left, it failed.
It's such an elegant little micro insight, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
That is just part 80 of one specific language. To truly understand the author, we have to scale out from this micro Boolean trick to the macro environment.
The sheer volume.
Yes, we have to look at the sheer volume of output required to reach part 80 of anything. Ang's archive is staggering.
Staggering is the right word. The blog has run continuously since July 2011, and the source material provides the raw publication numbers.
Hit me with them.
In 2023, Ang published 730 posts.
Wow.
In 2024, because it was a leap year, 732 posts.
Oh my God.
And in 2025, back to 730 posts.
That is exactly 2 posts a day, every single day, for years on end.
Every single day.
Now, if you are the learner listening to this, someone who is trying to stay well-informed, hearing those numbers probably triggers an immediate sense of anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
2 highly technical articles a day sounds like a recipe for massive information overload. I mean, if I try to consume that much raw data, my brain just shuts down.
Yeah, it's too much.
So how does someone produce that much without buckling under the cognitive weight? Is this just obsessive archiving, or is there a specific sustainable method to this madness?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it completely changes how we view that volume. Ang isn't writing mammoth 10,000-word academic essays every 12 hours.
Right, they aren't writing books.
No, they're writing notes. Look at the title of the post again. Notes on Haskell Programming. By documenting small atomic learnings daily, like that, right? Boolean trick Ang has constructed a massive, personalized, highly searchable wiki.
It's an external brain.
Precisely. It's an external brain. This is a masterclass in incremental learning.
Because you do not learn a complex ecosystem like Haskell or any deeply technical field by trying to swallow the documentation whole.
No one can do that.
Yeah.
You learn it by encountering one tiny friction point, solving it, writing down the solution so your future self doesn't have to spend 3 hours solving it again.
And then moving on to the next problem.
Exactly.
It is the ultimate defense mechanism against information overload, because instead of trying to hold all of this syntax, all these error codes, and all these track switch workarounds in your working memory, you are offloading it.
You're putting it somewhere safe.
Right. You are depositing the insight into a digital bank account.
And crucially, Ang is making that bank account entirely public.
Which is a choice. They didn't have to do that.
No, but it reflects the core ethos of the free, Libre, and open source software community, or FLAWAS, which Ang explicitly champions.
Yeah, the source lists the specific organizations Ang supports, right?
Yep. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Free Software Foundation,
The Software Freedom Conservancy?
the Tor Project, and Wikipedia.
I mean, those are the foundational pillars of a free and open internet.
They really are. They are organizations dedicated to the philosophy that knowledge, code, and tools should be shared freely, not locked behind corporate walled gardens or monetized by proprietary algorithms.
And Ang's blog is the personal daily embodiment of that philosophy.
They are taking their individual late-night struggles with syntax and leaving a meticulous trail of breadcrumbs for anyone else on the internet who might face the exact same obscure Haskell error.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Because up to this point, you listening might be picturing Ang as a pure machine code wizard, someone who lives and breathes server racks, Linux kernels, and functional syntax.
Just glowing screens in a dark room.
Exactly. But then you look at the projects list on qianmeng.org, you look at the recent posts from March 2026, the software is only half the story.
Not even half, really. The archive reveals a wildly diverse set of interests beyond Haskell, Go, Rust, Python, Elixir, and Erlang.
It's wild. You scroll down past the software libraries and suddenly you hit notes on gardening.
Gardening.
Yes. And it is up to part 833.
Part 833. That's incredible.
The titles of these gardening posts are so good. Listen to these. Leggy seedlings again, a nostalgic mustard, the flame dwarf cultivar, my bougainvillea journey,
I love that.
and my absolute favorite, observing the gelatinous pearl.
The gelatinous pearl.
It sounds like a fantasy novel, and it doesn't stop there. Notes on fish keeping is up to part 207.
With posts like simulating the moon and adapting water.
Yes. And there are meticulously tracked logs on photography debating the merits of a dedicated mirrorless camera versus a smartphone.
There are notes on dieting, home improvement, guitar, meditation.
There are literal dedicated logs for betta spawn and miscus fish's spawn.
Just incredible documentation.
Now, I look at this and I have a theory.
Let's hear it.
Eng spends all day wrestling with Erlang libraries and analyzing MediaTek routers. So naturally, the gardening and the fish-keeping logs must be a deliberate rejection of the digital world.
Like an escape.
Yeah, this is Eng touching grass, right? Stepping away from the rigid logic of the machine to embrace the chaos and unpredictability of nature as a palate cleanser. Kind of like a 19th century naturalist's journal.
Like Charles Darwin on the Beagle, but updated for the Wi-Fi 7 era.
Exactly. But I mean, really, how does tracking betta spawn logs or gelatinous pearls actually relate to reading Erlang libraries?
Well, you would think it's an escape, but look closely at the actual structure and mechanism of those non-software posts. They aren't poetic, free-flowing journal entries about the transcendental beauty of the outdoors.
They aren't.
No, they're system logs. The underlying mechanism connecting a post about Haskell and a post about a bougainvillea is the exact same. It's the scientific method and systems thinking.
Really? Walk me through how a dying plant equates to a broken case statement.
Think about what it takes to debug a complex software system. You have a desired outcome, say the program compiles and routes data correctly.
Right.
You have variables you can control in your configuration files. You change one variable, you run the code, you observe the result.
And if it fails?
If it fails, you document the failure, isolate a new variable, and try again.
That's just the standard debugging loop.
Exactly. Now apply that exact same debugging loop to nature.
Oh, wow.
Nature is infinitely more complex and messy than a localized server rack. But the process Eng uses to interact with it as a tinkerer is identical.
So a garden bed or a fish tank is what, just a biological server rack?
Essentially, yes. You have a desired outcome. The betta fish spawns, or the flame dwarf cultivar blooms. You tweak the soil acidity, which is basically adjusting the biological configuration file.
That is wild to think about.
You change the light exposure duration to simulate the moon for the fish tank, altering the runtime environment. You observe the output, and most importantly, you document it meticulously in Notes on Fish Keeping, Part 207.
Because whether Eng is optimizing Haskell guards or experimenting with a gelatinous pearl in the dirt, it is the exact same intellectual engine at work.
Precisely. Eng isn't constantly switching brains or seeking an escape from systems thinking when they step into the garden.
It's that Eng has built a highly efficient processing engine for reality, and they're simply pointing it at different inputs.
Yes. Sometimes the input is a software library. Sometimes it's a mustard plant. The strict documentation formatting, the isolating of variables, the recording of outcomes, that remains constant.
And by treating the physical world with the same rigorous curiosity as the digital world, the boundaries between the two start to dissolve.
The world just becomes a series of fascinating, interconnected systems waiting to be understood, tweaked, and documented.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We started this deep dive with a single clever rule for handling Booleans in functional code.
The realization that isRight can bypass tedious pattern matching.
Right, and the linguistic elegance that right is correct and left is an error because the data left the path.
But by unpacking the mechanism behind that one post, we ended up exploring a 15-year, multi-thousand post archive of a modern polymath.
Someone who applies the exact same rigorous, joyful curiosity to code, to plants, to fish, and to life.
It's really inspiring.
It really is. And I think the major takeaway here, especially if you are someone who loves learning but feels constantly crushed by the sheer weight of information out there, is to adopt Ang's tinkerer mindset.
You don't have to write the definitive comprehensive textbook on a subject to master it.
No. You just have to document the small, daily, seemingly mundane friction points. Over time, taking 2 atomic notes a day builds an incredible mountain of knowledge without the dread of information overload.
It transforms the internet from a place where you are passively bombarded by content into a localized garden that you are actively cultivating.
Beautifully said.
This raises an important question, though, when we look at the very bottom of Ang's site.
Oh, the disclaimer.
Yes, tucked away is a disclaimer. It explicitly states that the opinions expressed are their own, they do not represent any employers, and most crucially, they accept zero liability for any damage incurred by following their advice.
Meaning, if I read part 207 and accidentally alter my fish tank's pH so drastically that I poison my bed of fish, or if I implement a Haskell macro that crashes my personal server.
That is entirely on you.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it highlights that this blog is, at its core, a solitary endeavor. Ang is doing this for Ang.
The external brain was built to serve its creator.
Exactly. The fact that it is public, aligning with the EFF and Free Software Foundation ethos, is a generous bonus for the rest of us.
Right.
But consider the long-term implications of this kind of deeply personal digital legacy.
How do you mean?
Well, when a single person meticulously documents over a decade of daily, hyper-specific problem solving, from biological spawn logs to Perl modules, what is the ultimate value of that archive in our current technological era?
Oh, I see where you're going.
We are living in the age of artificial intelligence, where massive language models are desperately scraping the web for training data. But much of what they scrape is generic SEO-optimized noise.
Yeah, content written by algorithms to be read by algorithms.
Exactly. But a quiet, independently owned blog like qianmeng.org sits there as a pristine, high-quality data set of actual human cognition.
That's a great way to frame it.
It is a 15-year chronological map of how a human being encounters a problem, formulates a hypothesis, tests a variable, and documents the result. Will historians, or even future AI researchers, look back at these hyper-specific, multi-thousand post personal wikis as the modern equivalent of the Rosetta Stone?
The purest, most resilient documentation of early 21st century domestic and digital problem solving.
Is it the purest form of the free Libre internet, quietly outlasting all the loud, algorithmic noise of modern social media?
That is a staggering thought to leave on. While the rest of the internet is shouting into the void, Ang is quietly writing the high-fidelity training data of human curiosity.
It really makes you think about what we're putting out there.
It does. Something for you to ponder as you go about your day. Are you just consuming the noise, or are you building your own archive? Keep tinkering, keep documenting, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.